This really is a first full circle moment for me because I have one of my most endearing people who has impacted my life very much, Kathleen Cameron, on today. And she was not only my coach, but is my friend. And I just can't wait to share her with you all today. Kathleen is a manifestation coach and a CEO. She is a mom, a CEO, and a manifestation mentor who helps people build wealth from the inside out. She's an 8-figure entrepreneur, international best-selling author, and creator of The Millionaire, Modern Mentor, and the House of Manifestation, and other programs designed to help people embody wealth, health, and purpose. She founded the Diamond Academy in January of 2020 and grew the company to over 50 million in revenue by 2026. But the number isn't what really matters the most. What matters are the lives that are changed. Hundreds didn't just learn manifestation, but they became it. They rebuilt self-worth, healed their relationship with money, and started moving as the version of themselves who overflow with abundance. Many have become millionaires, not by luck, but by embodying the identity that makes wealth inevitable. Today, Kathleen goes by KCB. She's no longer hustling, building from hustle, but from embodiment. Her work is a movement of people remembering who they are and creating a life that matches their true potential. Guys, please join me in welcoming Kathleen. Wow.
Hello. I know I've never heard that before. I'm like, I don't know who wrote that. That's really nice. I
Give
should
them
have
a
to write more
raise.
things for me. Yeah. Oh no, it's so sweet, but it's just an example of like when you choose to become somebody that makes a significant difference out into the world and you lead with service and you lead with love, you can make a considerable impact. And then you look back at it on your I look back at it and I don't think about the money, I don't think about the bestseller and all that. I think about the people and the messages. My favorite is all the DMs that I get and the personal notes that I get. Those are my favorite things. But anyway.
Yeah. And the cool thing is, I've really watched you build this. So it's a
Yeah.
really interesting version of it that I see because I saw you starting, I remember calls at your old house and how you've built this beautiful legacy behind you. But I really would like everyone in the audience to hear about where you were in terms of like what created this version of Kathleen.
Yeah. What's so beautiful is like the version of myself that I was 7 years ago now. Like what are we, 2026? So yeah, 7 years ago. She didn't really believe in herself, but she was a hustler. So like I was consistent, I was committed, I was disciplined, I would do the work. I was in network marketing. That's how you and I kind of got to know each other at first, was probably from that type of world. But like I would do everything you would tell me to do. My problem wasn't getting the work, it was the underlying beliefs that I held about myself and like the emotional state that I was about who I was. And I know we're going to get into some more health things, but I even remember that version of me used to get shoulder pain in the right hand side. I used to get this neck pain all here. And I couldn't tell you what that pain was about back then. I would go to get a massage. I would go see a physiotherapist. I'd get muscle spasms all up in here. But like the version of who I am today realizes that that was actually a physical manifestation of the thoughts that I was holding about myself. But anyway, we'll go into it. But that's the version that I was, who was just living this life that was limited in so many ways, working night shifts, making $100,000 a year, living in a smaller house in Guelph, Ontario. And so the decision to become this woman that I am today, I've removed a lot of the limits from my life, but I've fallen in love with myself. And I've really, really nurtured these beliefs that like my life is here for a greater purpose and meaning. And so things like the neck pain are completely gone, never to experience that again since, right? And so it's just an example of the way in which I used to see myself and feel about myself, and the way in which I see and feel about myself today.
hmm And what's
Yeah.
really interesting about that is, I mean, there has been a lot of work that has gone into that sort of belief system.
Oh, yeah.
So what I would kind of love to delve into a little bit is like we talk a little bit about, where you were, you said you had that lack of confidence, you were working shift work, you were doing all the things, you were hustling, and then you started learning about mindset and manifestation. Tell me a little bit about how you really started to embody that and when you noticed that shift.
Yeah. Well, what was so beautiful is September of 2019, I got introduced to Bob Proctor from the movie The Secret. I'd never heard of him before, never watched any of his things. And I did a training with a woman online who was one of his coaches. And I just started following along with his stuff from there. And I
Mhm.
decided to sign up and I took a course. But the biggest thing, two things were the biggest catalyst that changed, that started to change my kind of my human experience going forward. The first thing was understanding that who I believed I was and the image that I held of Kathleen was it was changeable. I didn't know that. So like I had thought that I was who I was and that my personality was my personality and like this is just who I am and I can't do anything about it. So when I had this like remembrance that oh my gosh, like I don't have to be shy and I don't have to be sensitive and I don't have to be broken and flawed and I don't have to like hate myself today. Once I had that realization that I could change what I thought about me, changed everything. And then the other piece was when I really disconnected from being just my body. So
Mm.
when I had that spiritual awareness, that spiritual awakening, that like, okay, so what if I am a spiritual being having a human experience? And so what if my body is my vessel that I'm like housed in and not necessarily the it? Like I thought it was everything. I thought it was who I was, my body, right? And so because I thought it was everything, I really looked upon it in a way of not like, how can I take care of this thing that I'm in, but how can I make it try to look the best so I'm not judged?
Mm.
So I tried to change her through unhealthy things
Mhm.
instead of trying to like care for her to last me a long time. So
Mm.
those two shifts were the biggest catalysts. And then I started to find magic started to happen. So once I started to love myself and I started to connect spiritually and I started to move into like more stillness, and not take things so personally in life, of course, success started to come more. And what I mean by success is like followers would grow on social media platforms. My business would grow. I would, became a best-selling author. Like my outside world started to match what my inner world
Yeah.
believed that I was worthy.
So it's interesting because you talk a little bit about this spiritual awakening. Tell me what that was like for you, for all the listeners that have no idea what that means.
Yeah. So what really happened is the first moment I listened, Bob said something. He said, "You are not your body. You are in your body." And when I first heard that, I was like, yeah, I don't believe that. Like, what do you mean I'm
Mhm.
in this body? I'm not this body. Like, what do you like? No, Kathleen is this body. That's what I am. I'm a human. But then I contemplated it and I sat with it for a minute and I thought, okay, so what if that's true? Like, what if the truth of who I am isn't that I'm a physical body, but that I'm an energetic being, that I'm a spiritual being? Like, what would that mean for me in my life? And so, just like these bells started going off, And at first, I wouldn't use the language that I used was universe. So I would say, I'm a part of the universe. I'm the drop of the universe. The universe's energy, I manifest with it. Like I'm creating with the universe. The universe gives me back what I give out. So that would have been the first kind of level of spiritual awakening in 2019 would be to speak that way. But as we moved into 2021, I started to realize that what I'm actually talking about is a greater omnipresent energy that isn't just the universe. It's the very thing that's created the all of the universe, and that it's even greater than the universe. And so now I do use the God language, but I don't mean it in the sense of what many would believe I would say. But I do believe that we are tapped in, tuned in, connected to a higher and greater energetic existence, and that we can actually move it, manipulate it, and go with it to create a desired state as long as it's for the good for all.
Mm. what's really interesting is both Kathleen and I both come from the physical world, meaning we were both nurses.
Yeah.
And, we believed in, and so when you talk about, you are not your body, you are in your body, that was really difficult, even for me to grasp as someone who was really, we're really scientific based. So we look for hard facts and we're trying to move into like this understanding that's very different, more feminine, more about energetics, more about things that you can't touch, but you can definitely feel.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
Tell me a little bit about how you ended up helping other people see that. Because I think people are always looking for physical evidence. And I think what I'm kind of alluding to is I know the type of success that you had. And I think that that's what really drew a lot of people towards you was the tangible results that you were getting. But where did they actually start to see the other results?
Yeah. So, what I have learned to understand about my journey, Robina, just from where I am now looking back on it, because I do look back at the like exponential growth in terms of wealth. Because for me, it's like, I want to know, like, why was that the thing that made all the difference? Like, why is that the thing people come to me for? Still to this day, anything I do related to money, it has the most signups, the most registrations. This is what people want to hear. But what I truly understand, and God is very very smart, is that we actually are speaking to what people think they want or what they think they need, because in the moment that they're at in their life right now, they believe that money is the fix, the cure all, the thing that they want. And so we speak to it in order to um, have them find us, because their consciousness, that's what they're looking for. But once they do find us and they get involved with us in some capacity, even just the free stuff, they start to feel differently, and they start to realize that it's far more than just money. This is about fulfillment, this is about wholeness, joy, peace. But I do believe, Robina, I do believe that my journey unfolded in this way, with exponential quantum leaping collapsing of time wealth wise, as proof and evidence for those that do need it, in order to see a physical evidence proof manifestation, to help their minds to be able to believe that if this woman from, North Canada can manifest this incredible life, used to be a nurse, then it must mean that this is available for us all. So I believe there was purpose, there was an intentionality behind that. But I do find that once people get into the work, they actually start to find true fulfillment, true peace. They connect with their inner knowing, their awareness, their identity, their like who and what they are. They have spiritual awakenings over and over and over again,
Yeah.
different and higher levels. And then they start to create a real beautiful human experience for themselves.
Hmm. So,
Yeah.
as and I can ask these questions because I know your journey, but as you were going through and you're building this beautiful, business and this ripple effect that's happening in the community and people around you all over the world, really, you know, there was a level of having to keep up with it because there was so much growth. And as someone that's
Yeah.
building something, it's like, how do you keep up with that? Tell me how you try to manage that when your what you were building was really just growing at such a rapid pace. How did you try to contain that? So I'm kind of thinking from the lens of like someone that comes from the belief system of hustle and we're manifesting, so it's from flow, but then there's like a middle ground. How did you navigate?
Yeah. Yeah. I think the most important piece was for me to try to authentically remain true to what I was teaching. So, and I'm still to this day really, really try to maintain authenticity to what I teach. So, as everything was growing and everything was expanding, there was times where it was like, okay, Kathleen, you got to work harder. You got to do more. You got to do this. The masculine energy wanted to try to present itself. It tried to want to come in, and this is where I had to say no. I'm not going to do that. I'm actually going to do something different. And so you even witness like things like, for example, bringing on someone to manage the sales team, because I noticed that the team that I had was growing, different personalities, different energies, and it was taking a lot of my time, and it was moving me into this masculine energy, this masculine vibration. So bringing other people on to help with different parts of the business, like I've really understood that like delegation and leadership are far more important than making sure that my hands are on everything. But the hustle energy wants the opposite.
Yeah.
Looking back on some of those things, I don't think I fully trusted somebody else to do a better job than I could. And so we know what happened there. But so now for me, it's like I don't want to lack the trust in others. I want to manifest other people that can do a better job at something than I can even do, that are
Yeah.
going to elevate. So now, like, I look at my team that I have today, and everybody that is in a role in my world, in my company, they do what they are meant to do, and they do it better than I do. And so it's just a belief that came into life. But that old hustle energy, that old control energy, that masculine was like, well, nobody's going to do it as good as me.
Yeah.
And
And
that,
that's
like, fear-based thinking doesn't work.
Yeah, and that is something that so many high achieving women are doing is they basically are running these businesses, running corporations from a place of scarcity and fear because they don't feel like if they're let go of all like holding on to all the bags that it's going
Yeah.
to fall
Yeah.
apart. And in reality, I mean it does fall apart. So, can we talk a little bit about the moment that things sort of changed for you and how it changed
Yeah.
your perspective?
Yeah, what was so beautiful was like the beginning of 2022, everything was just thriving. Our business was the best it had ever been. I was the happiest I'd ever been. Like, I loved myself. I was at my heaviest weight, but my greatest self-love. Like, I was truly like just living what most would say would be kind of like my best life. But
Mm-hmm.
I also had many truths that I had to face, and I knew that going into 2022. There were some areas of my life that I was out of integrity with what I really wanted for my life, but what I kept in my life, right? And kept in a certain way.
Yep.
And so in February of 2022, I separated from my then husband, Chris, who is now my one of my absolute closest friends and business partners. And that relationship is exactly, it's better than I even thought it would be. But then we separated in February of 2022. And then what also occurred that year at the same time, so I had separated from Chris, and I was living on my own for the first time, not living with my daughters full time. I also had several members of my team all leave at one time. And it was like this sudden mass exodus. And then I also had all of this energy coming up about them starting a company together and taking a lot of my assets. And like this plan had been in place for a while. So there was a story. Anyways, so these two things happened and I just went on with my life. I walked every single day. I continued to pour into the business. I continued to journal and read books and do the work and went on with my life. And by the end of April, I was sick in a hotel room in Texas with walking pneumonia. And the doctor came and saw me, put me on some medications, but it was getting so bad, nothing was working. My dad flew out to fly me to Florida. He packed up all my stuff, put me on an airplane, got to Florida, ended up in hospital. Anyway, long story short, by May 10th of 2022, I had to have emergency lung surgery because my right lung was completely collapsed. They said it was probably the size of a dime, and it was trapped beneath four empyemas, which are pus-filled pockets around the lung. They were shocked that I was still alive. My organs were all shutting down, immediately put me in the ICU, had the surgery. Anyway, so that was such a defining moment in my life because everything was going so well, and then suddenly it crumbled away.
Mm.
And suddenly, like, I couldn't even teach the students, I couldn't post to social media, I couldn't even read a book, like, could not even read a book. And I remember just having this overwhelming sadness after it had all occurred, and after the surgery had occurred. But what happened the next 3 months from coming home from that surgery after I had these realizations of what had actually occurred was transforming and life changing because I learned a new set of skills through this experience in
Mm.
how to emotionally feel in a different way and process emotion to
Yeah.
actually help me manifest from true empowerment, true identity, and not like a false identity, right? So, like, me just pretending everything was okay and being like, well, I'm really, really strong and I'm just going to walk every day and pour into my business and I'm going to keep reading the books. I didn't process any of the emotion or any of the grief and loss
Yeah.
around my marriage, around living with my daughters full time, and around losing like these individuals that were on my team were my closest friends.
Mhm.
They were people that meant so much to me, and so suddenly they were all gone from my life. It was like 9 people gone from my life just like this, and I just moved forward. I didn't process it. And I had somebody come to me, Robina. It was probably like 3 days after the surgery. They DM'd me and they were like, Louise Hayes says pneumonia is repressed grief.
I know. I was literally going to tell you.
Yeah. And as soon as it was like 3 days after the surgery, literally, it was like the only DM that I read. I couldn't even read anything. I was off my phone completely. I opened it up one day and that's all I read. And I sat there, I sat with that thought for like a week
Yeah.
because I went, yeah,
It's like so profound. And you know what's so crazy is that I mean, I went through something very different, but the body talks to us so much.
yeah,
And the thing is that it will say, "Listen, I'm talking to you. I'm talking to you." And if you don't listen, it's going to make you listen. And I really believe
yeah,
it stops you in your tracks. And one of the things that I truly believe is like the more that we understand that emotions are energy in motion and they need to go somewhere. They got to go somewhere. And so if we're not expressing them and we're not learning how to process them, we're just repressing them and suppressing them and they will end up with dis-ease. And so I love that you kind of talked about, that you kept walking and, you were reading the books and everything was fine because from a mindset perspective, that's what we're taught. We're taught you have to have that mentality. But then there's also that subconscious programming and the body awareness and the body knowledge and the intelligence in the body that will show us different. So
totally.
now that you know all these things, and you talked a little bit about like the mourning that you had to go through, because those were big things that you went through. They're not like little things, those are monumental, like stop you in your tracks things that happened. How would you now that you know what you know, how do you work with your body and your energy in a different way going forward now?
Yeah, yeah. So one of the things that I have now with me 24/7 is a journal. And the journal isn't for journaling on my meetings, or it's not for journaling just like random thoughts. It's literally to journal my emotions. It's I call it like experiencing my human. Because we have spiritual awakenings and then we start to like transcend our human experience, and it's so great to do sound baths and meditations and all these types of things and like really connect to that higher consciousness, but you're still going to have a human experience that's going to exist. That's what we're here for. Like our spiritual essence came here to experience itself through us, through sadness, through anger, through frustration, through happiness, through excitement, through joy. And so I was trying to avoid all of my human experience by only ever feeling the positive emotions. And so what I was doing is trying to avoid the negative. So now I've created a journal that's for the experience of my human. So I will write down like, oh, Kathleen, what are you feeling in this moment right now and why? And I will actually give it a name. I find naming it is so beautiful. It's like accepting that it's there, accepting that it exists, allowing myself to feel what it feels like to have it. And then I say, okay, now you're free to go. And just telling that emotion that it's free to go after I give it a name, it doesn't suppress it anymore. It
Mm.
doesn't hold it. And it's become such a ritual in our life now, even with my kids. With Reagan, I'll say to her, I said, okay, Reagan, do you need to go and like let that emotion out? Like, do you need to go and feel it right now? And she goes, yeah, mom, I'm just going to go to my room and have a good cry and I'll come right back and we'll talk about it. And I said, okay, honey. And so, like, we've learned now together that it's okay to feel, that it's important to feel, and to allow that feeling to move through and out the body instead of holding on to it.
Mhm.
I do believe that there is this other thing though that some people do, and we've been taught to do it, is to sit in an emotion and keep it alive. So I remember I had a friend in my life that she'd be going through something and she'd be emotional about it, and she'd call this person and then she'd call that person and then she'd call this person and then she'd call that person, and she would be like telling every single person about the thing and re-experiencing the emotion. And
Mhm.
so I think you can go the opposite way. You can avoid,
Mhm.
or you can also sit in it for a lot longer than you have to.
Mhm.
So for me, like my focus is allowing the emotion to come up and then allowing it to go.
Mm.
I want to do those things.
Yeah, what's really interesting is one of the modalities that I use is biofield tuning, and I use tuning
Mm.
forks. And actually, as I'm using the frequency and sound, what's interesting is when the body is ready to release, it shows me things. So it'll
Oh,
show me like a biophoton, but you actually feel it when you're going through the field. But what's really interesting is one of the things I say to the people is like, your body is wanting to release this. And that's why these emotions come up, right? But what we do is we feel it. It's like stirring in us, and then we suppress it. No, I can't feel that right now. I don't have time to feel that right now.
yeah,
And
yeah,
so you just ushering it in, acknowledging it, ushering it, and saying, hey, listen, like, thank you for trying to protect me or showing me what you're feeling right now, but I'm ready to let you go. You can leave now. It's
yeah,
like you're giving it permission to work its way through you, right? And we know that the energy has to have a destination, and you're allowing it out of your body, which is
yeah,
interesting.
yeah. And I think, Robina, too, something that's really been beautiful is in loving myself, I've also decided to love myself through any emotional state. And I think what we do sometimes is that we don't love the really sensitive parts of us, the really reactive parts of us, the parts of us that maybe cry in the movies, or the parts of us that like get our feelings hurt. And so, really, just allowing myself to be an emotional woman and love that woman. Like, I really do think that one of my greatest superpowers is how emotional I am and how much I do feel and how powerful that feeling is, has become really, really beautiful. And then when you come from that place, everybody in your life starts to understand that, yeah, she's an emotional woman. She loves being an emotional woman and she wants to work through all of her emotions and let them out. It allows everybody else to normalize their emotions as well. They don't try to hide from you and then hide from themselves.
I think what's interesting with that is that you're actually allowing yourself to see every single frequency. It's like
Mm-hmm.
you're seeing yourself in the lows and in the highs, and you're allowing yourself to work through that. So, even a lot of people just, we don't want to be known as the sensitive woman, but that's what makes us so magnetic,
It
is that
is.
we feel so
Oh, yeah.
strongly. So tell me now, given all of this and what you've experienced, how do you use this knowledge that you've gained about self to create what you're creating for all these women, and how they can even integrate it into what they're building?
Yeah. One of the most biggest changes that I've seen kind of in my own practice in teaching manifestation and my own philosophies is the importance to feel in order to heal, and the importance of allowing emotion to be part of the manifestation journey, but not be the entire journey. With law of attraction, with manifestation, there's a lot of talk around like being positive, and the more positive you think, the more positive you bring into your life. So the way that I've really delineated this, Robina, and just consolidated it for myself, is that as I go through life, I'm going to remain in the identity of an empowered woman, but I'm going to have sad moments. I'm going to have angry moments. I'm going to have moments of frustration, but I'm not going to become a sad woman, an angry woman, a frustrated woman. So I've really separated this idea of like, who do I see myself as? What's the role that I play out in the world? Who do I believe I am? What am I worthy of? All of those things, the true empowerment of Kathleen as a woman, the conditioned awareness. What is that? What do I believe? And then my emotional state is always going to be in
Mm-hmm.
a range regardless.
Mm-hmm.
But I think what a lot of people do is they think that their emotional range has to do with their identity.
Yeah,
And
that's
I've really separated those two things and allowed myself to be empowered and to be sad, to grieve and to still be empowered.
Yeah, it brings me back to the idea of the belief systems and holding two beliefs at the same time. And
Yeah.
we can have that duality. And with love, we're gonna get like the hatred and all the negative things. And with sadness, we're gonna have happiness. Like it's the duality. But I love that and I literally wrote this down, is that you don't have to make that your identity, right? Like you can move through the duality and you can recognize it there, but you don't have to make it who you are.
Yeah. It was just a beautiful realization because, like, there would be these moments where I'd be sitting there crying and I'm like grieving the loss, the loss of everybody in my life, but
Mm.
also the loss of the woman that who I was before the surgery, and I'd be sitting there grieving it and I'm like, this feels like weakness. this feels like disempowerment. And then I went, but is that true?
Hmm.
Like, is that really true? Am I weak right now? Am I disempowered? And I went, no, I'm actually probably an even more empowered woman now. I know way more. I've been through so much more. I'm more resilient now. And so I just decided in that moment, I'm no longer going to be disempowered, but it's okay to feel what I need to feel along this journey. And like, listen, the human experience is going to be what it is no matter what. We are going to have the duality. People that have billions of dollars aren't sitting there smiling, happy, laughing all day long. They still have things that occur in their life that bring sadness, anger, frustration, boredom, loneliness, right? And so when we're trying to resist it and we're trying to fight it, we're
Hmm.
actually making a lot harder on ourselves than we have to.
Hmm.
So I've gotten a lot better. I know there's still work to do, of course.
Always.
Nobody's a finished product, but I've gotten so much better at letting emotion move to and through me and to have conscious conversations with people, to call somebody, not gossip or vent, because I still don't do that, but like have a conversation with somebody and be like, oh my gosh, something just happened. It caught my attention. I told a story. I feel sad. I just want to work through it. Do you have a couple of minutes for me? And just have a conversation. And then you move it through the body and then it's gone.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
what's really interesting about that is like now you have the awareness to be able to call out these things. Like you're actually being introspective and saying, okay, what is it that I'm actually feeling?
Yeah.
Some of the work that we've learned together about the subconscious programming and how it starts before the age of 7. I really want to like help people understand that a lot of the triggers and the things that are making people activated are usually not things that have happened from right now. It's not a new
Yeah.
feeling, it's an old feeling.
Oh,
How
yeah.
do you work through that with your people?
Yeah. So, what's so beautiful about the mind is it's so, so good at trying to find the last time that this sort of thing maybe happened and giving you the exact same emotional response. And so, how do we know that's happening? Because it's a pattern, it's a habit. You notice it, right? And so, what I teach in a lot of my courses and programs is to notice your reactions to life, to notice the moments that you feel sad, the moments you feel offended, the moments you feel disempowered, the moments you feel like, you're out of control, you can't control something, and start to notice the patterns of how you feel that way. And what you'll notice is that it's not a certain person that's trying to do anything to you. It's a certain emotion that's popping up because of a past experience that looks like this person. And so everything essentially is just a mirror of your own consciousness. It's just to tell you what's going on. So I often say, let's take the person's name out of the situation. So this person hurt your feelings today. Let's put your face there. How did you hurt your feelings today? Where in your past did you feel that same thing? Because it's never about that person.
Hmm.
It's always about what's occurred within yourself. And then I realized quickly that, well, the only reason I'm offended is because I kind of believed what they said because I kind of thought that about myself anyways. And I was worried about that they were going to say it. And so everything is just a reflection of what's going on. And when you live a life where you're always just going with it, going with it, going with it, going with it, asking like, what is this? Oh, where did this come from? Oh, where have I felt this before? You actually gain so much power
Yeah.
because you realize you're reacting from something that's not real in the present moment.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's a lot of feedback versus criticism
but
and
yeah,
judgment, right? And that's one of my clients, a lot of them, I'm always like, wow, this is like good feedback for you, right? It's telling you
yeah,
who you are being. Are you being the version of you from the past that was hurt, that was, going through all of those things, or are you being someone of the future? And I feel like that's exactly, I mean, what you're coaching people through is teaching them like let's pay attention to what's happening right now and how can we actually change the outcome based on this?
yeah. And I also realize that every reaction has a further reaction.
Hmm.
So, like, if I have an interaction with someone and that interaction felt uncomfortable in some way, and I don't even want to say it was good or bad or ugly, like, it doesn't matter. The interaction was uncomfortable and it was interesting, let's say. I can look upon it and tell a story, then I'm going to believe the story and then I'm going to react to it and I'm going to say something back that's going to make it even worse. Then they're going to come back. And here we have this like reaction based on the story I told about what they said. So instead, I go within and I ask, what is this reflecting about me? What am I noticing about me? And how can I move with love? How can I move with intentionality? How can I move forward in a way that doesn't judge others, that doesn't say something about myself? Like even when my team left in 2022, I did not judge any of them in any way. I moved into prayer, I moved into love, and I moved into introspection. You
Mm-hmm.
know, why did this happen according to who I'm being,
Mm-hmm.
right? How did I manifest this experience? What choices did I make? What thoughts was I having? What was the way in which I held my identity in my space? What did I believe about having a team, about being a leader, about all of that? And I just led with love. And it, to me, it made the experience so much better. I could have told all kinds of stories. I could have judged. I could have publicly said things. I also could have had reactions going down the line about future team members
Mm-hmm.
and, you know, the ways in which they're going to behave, and had fears about that. But because I went within and asked myself and I did the inner work, I've never experienced any negative effects of that transition in relationships. And like, even you and I being on this call today is just such a beautiful example of like leading with love and going within and doing the work and realizing that everyone is on their own journey and path, and we're either in or out of alignment at moments in our lives. And every single team member except for one, I have had beautiful loving conversations with since they've left. And I really, really believe that every single one of them is thriving
Mm-hmm.
because that's the path they were meant to take,
Mm-hmm.
you
What's
know?
really interesting to me is like you're walking people through this idea of like, okay, what kind of stories am I telling? What thoughts am I having? And really you're regulating your nervous system and you don't even really like know that's the language, but you're basically taking yourself out of a situation where, our minds, monkey mind is like prevalent for everybody, and you're not giving the microphone to that side of yourself. You're actually
No,
saying, no,
never.
let's kind of take it back a little bit, but also just recognizing that when we have these thoughts, it does create these neurochemicals and these things that happen in the body, and cortisol levels spike and all the things. And so just something as simple as looking at a situation for what it is, not what you think it is or how
Yes,
things
yes, yes, yes.
could be, and just asking yourself the curious questions can allow you to actually work through things a lot easier with less ramifications, and just from a place of calmness and ease, and that will help you really work through your body.
Yeah. And like in a little bit more spiritual language is exactly what you're saying. You're talking about the regulated nervous system, and being in like fight or flight versus like rest and recovery, that feeling of safety in the body versus dysregulation. But Neil Donald Walsh said something to me that was so beautiful. And it was just a spiritual way of saying it. But he said, when truth is operating in you, it feels like love, it feels like peace, it feels like joy.
Yeah.
Right? So when truth is operating, it feels good. It
Hmm.
calms the nervous system, it regulates you, it makes you feel in a really, really beautiful way. So what that means is if there's something occurring in your body that isn't love, peace, joy, doesn't feel good, you're entertaining an untruthful thing.
Yeah.
Right? And it could be a thought about you. It could be a untruth about somebody else. It could be a story that you're telling about the world. And so instead of trying to change the people outside of you or the world outside of you, I just go within and I say, okay, well, if this doesn't feel good, then it can't be true.
Mm.
So what could then be the truth?
I love
Right?
that.
Like, could the truth really be that people will flow in and out of your life? Relationships will change, alignment happens, and it's for the betterment of all. And so, that beautiful way of living my life now has led me, and I had to go through the stories
Of
to
course.
get here, has led me to this point where when people move in and out of my life now, it is with love, and
Hmm.
it's in that joy loving place. It's not disintegration.
Yeah.
And you really have to live from that place within yourself first, and you will find that you can manifest that outside of you. But if your inside is dysregulated and you're in that fight or flight and you're stressed and you're overwhelmed and you're worried and you're anxious, that anxiousness, you're manifesting from fear based thinking, and you're going to manifest what you don't want.
Mm. So
Yeah.
good. I think like anyone that wants to get in touch with you, Kathleen, tell me how they can find you because you are everywhere, but tell tell them how they can find you.
else that I went to high school with say this to me the other day. They're like, your stuff is everywhere. And I was like, well, marketing must be doing
That's
it
so
right.
good. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I see it like this. I see it as like this work, this information, God's like mission and vision for me is what's being visible. And if I can help somebody to love themselves a little bit more and find peace, yes, please. So put me on all the billboards. I'm fine with it. You can find me on Instagram, Kathleen Cameron Manifest, YouTube channel, which we have 111,000 subscribers right now on the
Oh, of
YouTube
course you
channel,
do.
Robina. So Kathleen Cameron Manifest, and then my podcast, the Manifested Podcast with Kathleen Cameron.
I love that. Well, thank you so much for coming on. It was such an honor and a privilege. You have touched my heart and my family's heart so much, and we're just so grateful for everything that you teach in the world.
Mm. I thank you for having me. Thank you for thinking of me, sending you so much love, and give that family a hug for me, please.